How's it going, everyone? Well, today I'm basically going to be giving you an info dump on tires. I know it might sound a little boring, but it's pretty interesting how tires have evolved throughout the past 150 years. Give you some info on history and the different things that tires experience and why they are the way they are, and how they're used today and what they experience. So tires have been used for a very long time, maybe mainly more mainstream in the late 19th century. Um, Tires are, for most of their life, have been pneumatic, meaning that they are used with air or filled with air. You know, if you use pneumatic tools, they're called pneumatic because it uses compressed air. So that's the reason for that. Um, Early patents were made with different type of cloths, materials, leather, but rubber is what seemed to stick for most tire applications, especially as the tires evolved uh, around the late 1800s. Tires around that era were based more off of horse carriages and bicycles because that was main method of transportation besides walking. We're not going to include trains because they're on rails, but um, bikes. Those are the tires that were used on very early concepts of cars. If you look at the original Mercedes Benz, that tricycle, that is basically they knew what they already had and they used it on there. But with the evolution of car chassis, um, heavier weights, vehicles, tires had to evolve with that. So this bike tire here is a lot different than what's on a regular car. See how it's thinner? See how the cross sectional area, well, I mean, I can't cut it in half, but you can imagine the cross sectional area is more circular than, for example, what's on my Ford Ranger right here. See, you have a more wider tire, it's not as round. The reason for that is that you have different loads going on with a vehicle versus a bicycle here. With a bike, you're more worried about longitudinal forces, and when you turn, like that's a big thing. A car has a chassis. A bike, the steering and everything, yeah, you have handlebars, but a lot of the steering has to do with you moving your center of mass to one or the other side of the bike while you're turning. With a vehicle, that's different. Let's look at this through a diagram. So we have a diagram of a car from the top view, from the front, and we have a bicycle leaning into a turn. So what I was talking about when vehicles make turns, um, you have your center of gravity. If you do not know what center of gravity is, that is basically the position where the sum of all of the mass of an object is. So usually a center of gravity of a car is right here and right here. So let's say, let's go with the bike. You're leaning into a turn, your center of gravity is here, but you have the centrifugal force helping you keep you up. So you can basically you can lean into that turn and be fine. But with a vehicle, not so much because you're carrying passengers or you got the engine there and like it's a lot of weight. You can lean into a turn with a motorcycle because it's not as heavy and you'll have enough traction to counteract the force that's going this way, so you won't, fall. So now let's look at a vehicle turning. So you have your vehicle going in a direction this way, but say you got your steering wheel turned and your car is starting to go into a turn. So what's happening is that your wheels are pointed this way and they're going this way, but your car's mass is still going straight. So you need enough traction to keep your car from actually spinning out. And in worst case scenarios, keeping your car from flipping over because the center of gravity is still going this way and your wheels are turning this way. So there has to be enough of a force to keep the vehicle stable while it's turning. That's why if you look at this diagram, if your vehicle's turning and going this way and you're still going really fast, say you just hook that wheel to the right, that center of mass is still coming this way. So with those wheels turned, that center of mass is still going this way, and then your car is going to lift up like that and then go on its side. And that's how tires and also, suspension and all those other things, but we're more focused on tires, and common sense will keep you safe. If you're still confused, let's look at these diagrams here. So with a car tire, you see how much width it has compared to the bike tire, but not just that, the contact surface that's hitting the pavement. So with a car, everything, or basically everything, is hitting the pavement, so you have more traction. With a bike, you have not even the whole width of the tire because it's round, hitting the pavement. So with that car tire, you get more traction. During the 1920s, or probably more like the 1930s, vehicles, basically race vehicles, they used tires that were more like this, and that was at the point where vehicles were starting to go over 60 miles an hour. And with that, unfortunately, people got hurt and even killed, because what would happen was, because of at such high velocities, you lose traction with such little contact. And race cars were having issues with oversteering, and the cars would spin out. So what engineers did and realized was that they, on the same rear axle, they added a second tire which increased gripping surface area. So this kept cars from spinning out and kept the people who were driving it safer. Now that we know more about what goes into changing direction of a vehicle versus a bicycle, now we can go into another evolution of the tire. So during the post-war era, I believe it was the 1950s, front-wheel drive cars were being introduced more so in Europe than America, but they were having issues with these tires that they already had, and they were deforming at a quicker rate, and they were failing because there's an addition that the rear-wheel drive vehicles don't have. With front-wheel drive vehicles, you have the wear and the forces on steering and what is included in that. Plus, the wheels are also experiencing the drive force. In a rear wheel vehicle, the drive force is sent to the back wheels through the drivetrain, through the axle, and then to the wheels. With front wheel drive, it's all in the front. So the tires were being deformed at much, much, much quicker than the rear wheel drive tires in the front. So to solve this, Michelin came up with the X tire. Cool name. But this tire, there were different cloths and different ways of that the tires were made to make it more rigid. But the X tire from Michelin, what they did was they included metal bands uh, around the tire and a type of cloth, I think it's rayon. And what this did was made the tire more rigid. And these are known as radial tires, which we use today and what I just showed you on my Ranger earlier. Those tires, they're radial tires because the bands, they are the way that they are placed in there, they're radial. So that's where we get the name from. So the tires deform less, and this is basically what we have today. It involves much smoother ride, and tires are much safer now than they used to be. Somewhere around the 1950s, I believe, Dunlop Tire Company made this part of the tire, which was the safety shoulder. I can show you right here. So you see this part of the sidewall where the flat part of the tire that makes contact with the road starts to go into the sidewall here. Well, this is the safety shoulder. It's basically to help with any obstacles that come in your way longitudinally, like if you're driving and then the road's a little uneven, or if you got like a small curb or something like that. This right here is used to help with that and not destroy the tire. Some of you might not know this, but tires are actually part of your car's suspension. I can show you right here. Remember how I said that tires are filled with air? They're pneumatic. Well, what does air do? It compresses. So the tire actually absorbs any impacts that come its way. So let me just lift this tire up and you'll see it bounce. It's got air in it. See that? Let's look at this bike that has no air pressure. This thing is flat. Lift it up. Nothing. Now that you've seen an example from the inflated tire to the deflated tire, something else I want to add. Tires can also contribute, they actually contribute to fuel economy. So think of it this way. Is it harder to pedal a bike that has an inflated tire or a deflated tire? Yeah, the inflated tire is going to be much easier. It's going to give you a much better ride. For example, my truck last week, I didn't know a tire was going flat, but I experienced that there was a pull to the right when I start driving. So I'm thinking it's either brakes or I need another alignment. I already replaced the brakes, bearings, rotors, and I already replaced the suspension parts that needed. So that's fine. My last thought was it's suspension. Come to find out, yeah, the tire was going flat. So with that, got the tires changed. But, if you ever experience that you're getting worse fuel economy and, maybe your vehicle's pulled to the right or left or whichever it is, check your tires. They could be going low. Tires definitely have more grip when they're going flat. This is why guys or girls, when they go off-roading, they more so, I'd say, with climbing. If you're rock climbing or something, you got your Jeep, truck out, whatever, you're going rock climbing. The thing that you do is you deflate your tires enough to where, let's say, I don't know, let's say 7, 10 psi, to where that tire is going to grip around the rock, whatever you're trying to climb. That is a benefit, and also proof that tires, when they're deflated, they actually cause more of, not, they don't just grip more, but they actually cause more of an opposing force. Think of it this way. My tire was going flat. It was just one tire, but it was pulling my truck to the right. It has its own braking power because it's not it's contorting more, it's gripping more on the road, and it's giving the driver a harder time. But the benefit is that if you're going off-roading, that's the time you deflate your tires so you can actually grip and climb. Speaking of off-road tires, let's get into this a little bit. What's the difference between off-road and street tires? Well, if you look at the off-road, we'll look at the design. You want to look at the design of the tread. That's going to be the biggest difference. So, you see with off-road tires, see how like they have all these little, whatever you call them, nubs in there. It's meant for gripping. The ground is going to change with the shape of the tire. So if you have a street tire and you go off-roading, it's going to be more difficult because it's just flat ground. When you have flat on flat, you're going to get more slipping. But with off-road tires, you're going to get more digging action. If I put my hand on the ground and I just slide it, I try to grip and pull myself forward, it's not going to be as effective as if I dig my hands into the ground and pull myself forward. Or the same thing if you're climbing up like a dirt hill or something. So that's the biggest thing for off-road and street. They do have a combination of both, which are all-terrain tires, which a lot of people, I even have them on one of my trucks. You still get that gripping action, but it's kind of like a mix between a radial tire and an off-road tire. So those are the differences between those. So now you know the difference and what to use for each application. Also, if you didn't know, tires actually have gutters. Yeah, surprising, but it's right in front of you. Let me show you here. See these grooves in the tire? You hear? That's for rain. Your tires have gutters. And that's why cars, when they drive in the rain, they're not slipping around everywhere. Of course, the coefficient of friction is down more, so you got to be more careful. But those gutters are there, those grooves are there so that rain can slip through them, and so you don't have to worry about spinning your car, having over or under steer, because now you got a layer of water between the tire and the road. That's not good. Now with those grooves in place, those gutters, the water goes right through and you have a much easier time. Now if you think of it this way, let's say the Formula One cars, or if you see someone with Hoosier tires and they're going to the drag strip, they're not driving in inclement weather. They are dry only, fair weather, and they have more contact surface area with the road. So they're going to have more grip. But to the daily driver, those gutters need to be there so we can drive in the rain safely. So that was general info dump on tires, gave you history, gave you applications, why tires are the way they are. So I hope you learned something. I definitely did making this video. If you like this material, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be coming out with more material that's theoretical but also hands-on material. So stay tuned. I'll be coming out with videos, and you have an amazing week. Catch you later.